Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is the second episode, and this week I have Spyros on, and please yell at me if I pronounce your name wrong.
It is Spyros, not Spyros.
Spyros, fantastic. Yeah. So first strike of the podcast. So yeah, let's get rolling right into this. I'm going to crack my brew, which is a Breckenridge Avalanche Amber Ale. Pretty good. Again, local.
Sounds good.
And this is the same stupid bottle opener that I used that I broke on the last podcast, and I think it's going to, it's dying on me. You know what, we're just going to break it all the way.
Break it.
There we go.
Ooh,
and we will use a new one on the next podcast when I can afford it.
All right.
So, what do you got going on there?
Well, I'm not much of a beer guy. I've never developed the taste. So I have a bottle of Corte Maria Romagna. It's a German wine, and it's pretty tasty, to be perfectly honest.
Fancy.
So yeah, I'll be drinking. Oh, not fancy, just and I don't hate on beer. Like I'm not a hater. I try it periodically, and it's just never a thing that I can seem to get a good taste for. Like I just don't like it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Right.
Well, cheers to the drinks of choice.
Cheers. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Just the right thing to get this rolling. So, some of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I think by looking at your YouTube channel, and I've had a lot of questions from folks on Twitter. They'll send me direct messages and say, how did you get started on YouTube? How is it, being a YouTuber? And I've never really considered myself a YouTuber, but now I have people referring to me as a YouTuber just because it's kind of, a thing I do as a hobby in my spare time. And looking at your channel, you have a much more, what I would consider successful channel, a much larger following. And you're someone that I look at and I go, you're a YouTuber. So I think that definition, it's kind of relative.
It's definitely relative.
It's subjective, and it varies, depending on your perspective. So I just want to talk a little bit about your channel, and we'll definitely direct everyone to, links up in the top of the video and links down in the description to your channel. But tell me a little bit about your channel. How did you get started on YouTube?
So I got started, my God, like 2011-ish, somewhere around there. And back at this point in time, like blogging was all of the rage, and I was trying to figure out like how can I get people to subscribe to my mailing list. And this idea that I came up with was, hey, what if I make some videos and put them on YouTube, but they're unlisted, and then people who subscribe to my mailing list, they can get these videos, like this little mini course for free. Like, this was the classic internet thing is, here's the free whatever, subscribe to my mailing list.
Right.
So these are my first YouTube videos, right? They're on YouTube, they're unlisted. It got nobody to subscribe to my mailing list. It literally did nothing. And then something like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months later, I'm not exactly sure when, a friend of mine, a local friend of mine, in person asked me, like, which camera should I buy, the D3200 or the D7000? And I told him which one I thought he should buy. I said, I think you should buy the D7000. It's a, long term, it's going to be a much better camera for you. You can grow into that camera. And then I was like, I should make a video about this and just put it on YouTube. So I did, like, just, a total whim. And I do this, I put it on YouTube. This was something like November-ish. I don't remember exactly when. I don't even know. But, and nothing, right? And then 3-4 months later, my email starts blowing up like new subscriber on YouTube, new subscriber, like hundreds. And I'm like, what is going on here? Because I hadn't done anything, like anything. So I log into my YouTube, and sure enough, like I've got, at that point I had already had, I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers. And I was like, whoa, like I could do this. And that's how I got started on YouTube.
Okay. That is,
so
that's
it's
awesome.
pretty random. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of awesome. I'll tell you what, though, I did probably the worst plan ever. I mean, I don't know. My whole plan for many years was just make a video every week. Like that was the entire plan. That was the whole operation. Like just make a new video every week. And in some ways it worked really well for me, but in other ways it might not. It wasn't the best plan. I can tell you that right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the plan I've been rolling with for a little bit. I've been doing it for a little over 3 years now. I started back, I think, beginning of 2017.
Okay.
And I'm at like 170-ish videos. I've skipped a couple weekends. Things just pop up, or you just, you get to Sunday night and you're like, I didn't feel like doing anything this weekend. It happens. And no matter how hard you try to get ahead, it never works for me.
Right. It just kind of I've tried for years when I was I'm kind of on a little bit of a break right now. I am making videos, but I'm not on any kind of a schedule. It's like, if I feel like making a video, I'm going to make one. But for years, like I tried to set up a production schedule so that I was a month ahead on videos. And it never lasted for more than like 2 months because life just happens,
Right.
Like life just happens. And then the next thing you know, you're out of videos and it's Sunday night and your upload is Monday or whenever it is. And you're like, can we swear?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Oh, shit. What am I going to fucking do for a video tomorrow? Like that's YouTube life.
Yes. If that could summarize it in, one sentence, oh shit, that's YouTube life.
That's YouTube.
You're coasting on the algorithm, and then you think you're doing good, the channel's growing, and then all of a sudden YouTube makes a change, everything goes down, you're demonetized. Oh shit. That was food this week. Oh shit.
Yeah.
For some people.
I mean, so I've learned a lot in the time that I've been on YouTube. I've been doing it for 10-ish, 11, however many years that's been. And like the one thing I've learned is don't depend on YouTube.
Right.
And for a long time, like I said, my plan was just to make a video every week. So I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a monetization strategy. I didn't have anything. But I eventually figured out, if I want this to be something of a business, then it has to go beyond YouTube. And that's when I started like doing courses and things like that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm kind of in that hot seat a little bit right now, thinking of, all right, great, I've been coasting for the last 3 years. What does the next 3 years look like? What does the next 7 years look like? Where do I want to be in 10 years? Do I want to try doing this full time? Just a lot of, ifs and who knows, and who knows what's going to happen. YouTube might not be here in 5 years, so
yeah, that's very true. I mean, I personally think YouTube is in crisis mode and has been in crisis mode for 3 to 4 years, honestly, with just thing after thing, adpocalypses from PewDiePie, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, those guys triggering wacko stuff, this kid stuff, the FCC. Like YouTube is in crisis mode, and it's rolling out and it's affecting all of the creators out there. A lot of them negatively. So that's part of the reason that I'm kind of like, whatever, I'm just going to take a bit more of a hands-off approach for the time being.
That makes a lot of sense. So you said you started about 10 years ago. I think I looked at your channel. It said 2011-ish.
Yeah.
So I think you alluded to this already, but do you think it would be easier to start a YouTube channel now or 10 years ago?
That's kind of a tough question. Like, in a way, I think it's easier to start now because the tools that we have available to us as creators are better. From cameras all the way to things to help you do better on YouTube, to like information about how to do better on YouTube. But at the same time, like the field is so crowded now. And I kind of feel like, you know, I feel like 1 million subscribers is the new 100,000 subscribers. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
5 to 10-ish years ago, 100,000 subscribers, like you fucking made it on YouTube. You were like, you know, balling, and you were like set for life. You know what I mean? And now, you know, not to diminish what I've accomplished in the time, because I'm grateful for all of the subscribers that I've had, and I'm grateful for everything that's happened. But the reality of it is, like 100,000 subscribers on YouTube is, it kind of doesn't mean anything. And that sounds like really discouraging. But what really matters is just what you were talking about earlier, right? Like the algorithm, the actual views, and what YouTube decides to do with your video.
Right.
You know, at this point, subscribers is just a pretty number. Like that's almost all it means. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's all watch time right now.
Yep.
And that could change tomorrow. Who knows?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I still haven't figured out if it's you know, let's say you upload a 10-minute video and, you know, 1,000 people watch it. So you have 10,000 minutes of watch time. Is that the same as, you know, you upload a 2-minute video and you have 5,000 people watch it, or whatever percentage of that video? Does YouTube really look at the overall watch time? So every video I should be uploading should be 10 minutes? Or is YouTube looking at, oh, well, they watched 99% of your 2-minute video and only 1% of your 10-minute video? So I think it's overall watch time, but I really developed my channel initially on the basis of, I hate watching, you know, these 20-minute videos that are all, you know, cinematic B-roll for 19 minutes and 30 seconds. And somewhere in the middle is about 30 seconds worth of useful tip, trick, hack tutorial. And I just learned, you know, what your third cousin's new baby's name is and what new pickup truck you just bought. But I have no idea what photography trick I was supposed to learn from this 20-minute video. But you got my watch time.
Oh my God, I am so with you on that. So with you. Like, B-roll has its place. Don't get me wrong. You know, anybody out there making videos, having fun with B-roll, that's cool. B-roll has its place, but for the love of God, just get to the fucking point, you know? Like, you know, and Peter McKinnon is kind of the king of this, right?
Right.
And I don't begrudge Peter McKinnon anything. He has achieved a tremendous success, and he deserves everything he's got, right? I had no hate towards the guy. I want to make that very clear, because I'm not a person who likes to try to trash or drag other people down. But I think he really sparked. Casey Neistat kind of started it, and then Peter McKinnon like shot it through the roof.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it just is so overdone, and it just, I can't stand watching those videos. Like, I just, you know, it drives me bonkers.
I think it's interesting. So far, both of these podcasts have steered towards, you know, cinematic B-roll, how to get the most. And it's really funny. I actually just dropped a video today, kind of, I wouldn't call it a diss video, but a little bit of a satirical 6 tips to cinematic video. Like
nice.
the wider your widescreen, the more cinematic. You know, the more dubstep, the more cinematic, and the more coffee. Whether it's coffee grounds, coffee creamer, coffee grinders, that's the key to cinematic videos.
That's brilliant.
And it actually kind of exploded today, and I'm sitting at about 1,500 views in the last couple hours.
Sweet.
Which
that's fabulous.
My normal videos get about, you know, 100, 200 in the first day, but it actually it really caught on Twitter, because there was actually a couple people making that same argument. They're sick of, you know, the epic B-roll. The meaningless B-roll that doesn't tell any sort of story or, you know, other than great production value. isn't useful to moving your story forward. So I 100% agree with that. 100%, I guess, ride that cinematic hate train, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I think you nailed it with what you just said. It's the fact that so much of it is unnecessary, that doesn't add anything material to the video or the topic or the story. Maybe it adds to the story, right? Like Peter McKinnon's making coffee and it's telling the story of him making coffee. And that's great for him and for anybody that enjoys that. Again, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum.
Right.
But there's so much of it that just doesn't materially add anything. And part of what I think the big difference is there are people who are entertaining and there are people who are educating. And then there are people who blur the lines between the two. And some people are okay with that, but then, others, I think, like us, look at this blurring of the lines and we feel deceived and we feel cheated because we spent 20 minutes watching, cinematic B-roll of coffee when we wanted to know how to do XYZ, thing in Lightroom or, whatever it is we were looking to learn.
Right.
And I am most definitely that person because I just, I do watch things on YouTube for entertainment, but honestly, there's not a lot. Mostly for me, YouTube is learning stuff. And so I want to learn the thing that I want to learn, and that's pretty much it. Like, I don't give a shit about your coffee.
Oh, man. In this case, it's beer for this podcast, but
right.
Alcoholic adult beverage of choice. But yeah, I'm exactly in the same boat. If I'm looking for something on YouTube, whether it's, putting a new battery in my car or, cleaning off my spark plugs or something, I don't want to see, 20 minutes of your Mustang zipping up and down the freeway, I guess, which is the equivalent of our photography analogy for anybody that doesn't do photography. Or you racing your Lambo when I wanted you to tell me how to fix, the tire of my motorcycle. So that's kind of, I guess, how I see it when all these guys are going off and doing, 30 minutes of B-roll. And then that evolves into the newest thing is the B-roll challenge. And again,
I've seen those. Yeah.
I can't blame a single creator for that because that's not their fault. And like you said, blurring the lines of entertainment and education, that is educational for filmmakers.
Right. Absolutely.
You need that B-roll to support your A-roll, to support your story. Not everything is going to be, a talking headshot, especially on YouTube. But people take that as, I kind of equate it to, back in 2009, I bought my first camcorder, a little HVX DV tape camera. And back then it was, still all about getting cinematic footage. People would throw those depth of field adapters and 35 millimeter adapters. So I could put a Nikon lens on my Canon camcorder and, it made the footage grainy, shallow depth of field, all that fun stuff. And I would spend hours and hours and hours looking at, HVX 20 footage on YouTube or Vimeo, wherever I could find it. And I think that's, kind of what it is today. A lot of people don't want to actually go out and create content the same way it was 10 years ago. Thousands and thousands of hours I spent, looking at this test footage and creating my own, test footage videos without a story, without meaning, just because, it felt good to shoot. It felt good to get out there and practice. But it ended up kind of hurting me in the long run, not learning that storytelling element, I guess.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what's missing is people are uploading a lot of awesome test footage and a lot of cool stuff, but there's no storytelling.
No
right, exactly.
Yeah. And, to be fair, like, I think, of the sort of big YouTubers that are in that trend, and I don't watch this stuff anymore. And again, no hate towards any of these people, but I think Casey Neistat is one who's been really excellent at telling the story with his cinematic footage.
Yes.
And I learned a lot from watching his stuff back when he was doing like his daily vlogs. I learned a lot about using video to tell a story and do cinematic things and tricks to to move things along in a way that advances the thing you're trying to do.
Right.
And that, I think, is what is missing in a lot of the things that you see. And one thing that I think it's important for all of us to realize is that some of these people are figuring all of this out. So, there are going to be people who are making this stuff, who are doing all of these, cinema crimes or YouTube crimes, whatever we want to call them, right? Crimes against YouTube.
Oh, I like that.
But these are people who are also like finding their own way. So that's why I always try to temper my, I don't want to say dislike, but my lack of enjoyment for those sorts of things by recognizing that, these are people who are trying to find their own voice in this particular medium, and everybody deserves a chance to do that. It's the same with photography. There's a thing I learned a long time ago is that as photographers, we all go through this phase of doing different things, right? Like you get your camera, you learn how to start to take photos, you learn like shallow depth the field, right? As an example, and now shallow depth the field, like that's my thing. I'm going to do shallow depth the field all the time, right? And then you start editing photos and you realize, oh my God, I can do selective color. Selective color is going to be my thing all of that, right? Like we've all done it. Like you've done it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I've done it.
Guilty.
Guilty. Absolutely guilty, right? So it's just, that's the thing that I think it's always worth remembering when we see that kind of thing going on out there, is that, some of these people are trying to find their way and trying to find their voice, and they are experimenting in this medium. And that, I think, is a beautiful thing no matter what the medium is.
Oh, I 100% agree. And that really, when you put it in, I guess, in that context, that really changes the perspective and kind of my perception of what I see out there is, you are, or not you, but the you of the public is just these individuals watching this video and feeding off this content. They're just where I was 10 years ago.
Right.
And, they actually have the advantage now because, technology is cheaper. Everybody has a 4K camera in their pocket.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
We were struggling for HD, and man, it's nuts.
Dude, do you know what my first camera was?
Oh boy.
Do you remember those flip cams that had like the switchblade USBs?
Oh, I still have one somewhere.
Yeah, me too. That was my first camera. That was what I recorded my first videos on. Total potato camera. Total potato camera, right? And now we're all carrying around 4K HD, iPhones and Androids in our pockets. I can record amazing footage. To me, it's incredible.
Oh man, yeah, I still remember that flip. I would take it, to the museum and stuff like that. Recorded 720p. For those of you,
oh god, you had the 720p. I had the standard depth one.
I guess I had the fancy flip.
Right.
That was back in my days of like animation and stuff. So I would go and record random things at like the art museum as inspiration for, later animation stuff. Or I'd record, cars driving down the street. How does this wheel turn? How does this person walk? As later reference for things. And then I ended up using it a lot for like compositing. Like I'm going to put an X-Wing fighter parked in this gas station or something crazy like that.
Nice.
But a lot of fun. And 720 was a lot of pixels to work with at the time. Back in 06, 07-ish is my guess. Is probably around, I think 06 is when I got mine.
Okay.
Oh man. And I still have some photos on my couple of my hard drives, or I guess flash drives, that still work. But yeah, the times have changed.
Oh God, yeah, they've changed. And so like a thing that happens to me regularly, and you probably get these questions too, is the people who want to start making videos and you're like, what camera should I get? What this should I get with that? And I always tell people, like, start with your phone. Before you put any money into anything, start with your phone, because A, you don't even know if you're going to do this, and B, it's the easiest point of entry.
Right.
And it is more than good enough for 99% of what everybody's going to want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And even, the next step after that, people come to me, it's like, all right, do I buy, this Canon or this Nikon or this, Olympus, Sony, whatever? And I'm looking at the stats and I was like, 10 years ago, I would have killed for any of these. Like, go buy any of those and you'll be absolutely ecstatic with the, raw quality, your full frame sensor, the great glass that they're coming out with, the dynamic range, again, that I would have killed for 10 years ago. So it's almost hard to give advice these days on cameras, because I look at these cameras, like I still, shoot on my 5D Mark II that I bought in 2009, and I still think that's pretty great.
Oh yeah,
the video's lacking a little bit. But I look at these new cameras and I go, I would be happy with any of those, even, your entry model mirrorless or DSLR. And it makes it difficult to give people camera advice these days.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like it also makes camera reviews kind of pointless, because it's splitting hairs at this point. And I basically tell people, like, you pretty much can't go wrong. And one of the things that I've learned over time is that when people are asking, like, should I buy this camera, this camera, a lot of times they're just looking for confirmation of what it is that they want to do already. Right. And I've learned to kind of pick up on this in emails and messages and things that I get. And because you basically can't go wrong, like, all I really do anymore when people ask me, like, which camera should I get, is try to understand which one they feel is the best one for them, and then say, go for it. Because it's going to be a great camera, because you almost can't buy a bad one today unless you buy, like, one of those, rebadged Kodak, or the, those, like, really, like, those are about the only truly bad cameras you can buy. If you're buying anything from any of the major brands, like you said, Canon, Sony, Olympus, Panasonic, Nikon, whatever, like, you're basically you're guaranteed to get a good camera.
Absolutely. It feels like every camera company has 4 different cameras with the exact same stats. Like, I'm just gonna make up numbers right now. These aren't accurate at all, so don't quote me. But you'll have, like, the Nikon D3200, the D3300, the D3400, the D4400, and it'll just keep on going. It's like, what, minus, 0.01 megapixels, what's the difference in all these cameras? And, people will ask me, it's like, well, hey, do I buy the D3300 or the D5900? And I was like, I don't know. I can't help you if I wanted to.
Right. Yeah, like, what I would say to that is, all it is iteration. And this is the other thing that I tell people all the time. Obviously, if they're buying their first camera, they have to buy a camera, right? And so then I help them figure out, like, which one do you want? Okay, buy that one. But the other thing you're finding, of course, is you'll have somebody that has the D3300 and they want to upgrade or whatever it is. And this is the other thing that I think, it's the other trap that photographers fall into. And it's perpetuated in part by YouTube and a lot of the photographers on YouTube. And, of course, by the companies themselves, because clearly they want to sell cameras to make money. But until you know why the camera you're using is limiting you, you shouldn't upgrade your camera. Because then you're just spending money for no particular reason. When you understand, this camera, whatever, let's pretend it's the D3400. This camera is limiting to me because I shoot sports and the focus system is lacking for the kind of action I want to capture. Okay, now you know what the problem is you need to solve. I need a camera that has a fast autofocus system that can capture sports photography. Which camera should I now get for that? Right? That's when you should upgrade a camera. But people fall into this trap of, I got to get full frame, or, I need to get this camera, or I need, all of this. It's like that frustrates the hell out of me. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a gear acquisition syndrome.
Yep. That's the thing.
I definitely suffer from that all the time. I'll just see something new. It's like, well, I don't know why I want it, but it's shiny and I want it.
Right. It's seductive. I mean, I'm with you. I'm shooting an older camera. I shoot with the Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II, which is however many years it is old now, like 4 or 5 years old. And it's a great camera. Like, I love it. It shoots what I need. All of my work over the last 5 or 6 years has been created with it, and I'm very happy with it. And yet at the same time, like, I saw Olympus came out with their, EM1 Mark II, and that part of my brain was like, oh, you should get that camera. That camera would be great. It'd be an improvement over what you've already got, and blah, 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 blah. Right? And I'm like, shut up, brain. Shut up. Don't need that. Don't need it.
Absolutely. And then you have, Peter McKinnon is whispering on this shoulder, and then you have Maddie Hippoja is whispering on this shoulder. Buy it.
Right.
Buy it. I shot this epic B-roll sequence on my jet ski today. You need this camera. So you can shoot epic jet ski, coffee drinking B-roll sequences as well. So
Right.
And it's the other thing, this is a little hate mail for YouTube. And I guess this is more the companies and the way they manipulate YouTube. Like last week, I guess a new iPhone was released. Maybe?
Oh yeah, the SE, I think it was the iPhone SE.
Okay,
the new version of the SE.
Okay, I'm still on an iPhone 6, so I can't keep track. Like, I don't care. It calls, it sends text messages. Job well done. As long as it doesn't fall in a lake while I'm jet skiing, shooting my B-roll, I will be fine. So, what you see these days on YouTube is, one day it'll be, May 1st, and then 1,000 notifications come in from everybody doing their new iPhone 23 review. And it's like, what the heck happened here? And I've actually, I've asked a couple of creators, like, why do you all drop your stuff on the same day? And they're like,
when the embargo ends.
Yes. So I learned that kind of the hard way. And they're like, yeah, this is when Apple said you have to release, on X day between, 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So now I get 50 notifications from everybody. Marcus Brownlee and iJustine and Sarah Dici and whoever is, got their iPhone in the mail last week, who barely had enough time to unbox it, but they know what to recommend for you. And they know exactly what you need in your life. But yeah, that's something I kind of dislike about it's less of a YouTube problem and more, like I said, how companies are handling YouTube. And it's like, oh, no, everybody wait. Okay, now you release your 5-star review or you're never going to get an iPhone again. Kind of like that. It's just this manipulative, and it sucks. But at the same time, I understand, like, if Apple wanted to give me an iPhone, I'd do it. I'd release, my video when they tell me to release it. Or if Canon gave me a video, just forgot what the picture taking things are called. If Canon gave me a camera, the podcast all about the picture taking potatoes. So, if Canon gave me a camera and said, hey, you have to release it, on May 23rd and you have 3 weeks to, put this thing to its limits, I'd do my best, but I don't think I would be giving, a full and accurate review of the product that I'm telling someone else to spend $5,000 on.
Yeah. Like, I used to find reviews more useful back when I was, when I knew less about cameras and photography. So I understand the value of them for people. I don't, because this is the thing that some people will tend to forget. When you reach a certain level of knowledge and understanding of whatever a particular thing is, photography in our case, you know stuff. And when you know stuff, you can immediately assess a thing and say, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's bad. Or yeah, that fits my needs. Yeah, that doesn't fit my need. But for the people who don't know, they don't know, right? And fair enough, they need to learn somehow. So I get that those videos are valuable for those people who are trying to learn and understand those things. At the same time, I've always found review videos incredibly boring, both to make and to watch. To watch because I know what I know, so I can just assess a camera by myself. But also to make because it's just, to me, it's not fulfilling a video, type of video to make. I much prefer making videos that help people understand a thing that will help them be a better photographer, regardless of the camera they're using. Any camera, from the potato to the greatest camera that they can buy with tens of thousands of dollars, because as you know, and I know, and many other photographers who've reached that point know, it's way, way, way more about us behind the camera than it is about the actual camera itself.
Absolutely, and I kind of want to do a review on a potato camera right now. I'm not sure if it'd be like a pinhole camera. I can slide a piece of film in the potato and just,
Right.
I think it needs to happen now.
That would be pretty hilarious. You should do that. Just take a potato and pretend it's a camera and make a review video.
That might be next weekend's video.
I love it.
5 beers later.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the beer camera.
Ooh.
The beer bottle camera.
That is not a half bad idea if the whole thing, that's a little bit bigger than a pinhole at the top right there, but that would be interesting. Or the beer can camera, kind of like a pinhole camera, just poke a hole in the side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You just have to figure out a way to you couldn't lay the film on the curved edge of the beer can.
Right.
It would have to be.
Or you could and just make a really funky photo.
Interesting. Would it be like a wide angle lens with a pinhole camera?
I mean, it might kind of look like that. It'd give that sort of look because of the curvature of the can. That would actually be interesting to do just as an experiment.
Huh. Yeah, I think again, I think after a couple of beers, I know what I'm going to be doing this week.
Right.
Oh man.
Nice.
All the ideas just flowing now. Or maybe it's just the alcohol flowing.
A little bit of both, but that's what makes the world go round, right?
Absolutely. Well, where were we last at? Talking about camera reviews, potato reviews, instant potatoes, instant film. Looking at some of the YouTube photographers, and I like to kind of throw that in quotes, YouTube photographers, because it seems these days, almost anybody can get on YouTube, watch a tutorial, and then turn around and make their own tutorial about the same dang thing. Right. And I see it a lot, and I mean, it turns into sometimes a spread of disinformation if someone didn't interpret the last video right, and they're like, well, I'm not really sure how to do this, but I think this is the way. It creates kind of this line of disinformation covered up by cinematic B-roll. And
right.
What do you think?
It's like a game of YouTube telephone.
Exactly. So if we're to give YouTube photographers credit, what do you think YouTube photographers are doing right today on YouTube?
I got to be honest, I can't answer that very well, because one of the things that I learned about myself as a quote unquote YouTuber is that I can't watch many other YouTube photographers. If I do, I get into this cycle in my brain that wrecks me. Because the worst thing that you can do as a human being doing anything is compare yourself to another human being doing the same thing.
Yes.
And when I watch other YouTube photography channels, I can't stop my brain from doing that.
Right.
So for the most part, I don't watch very much. Theoretically, what I appreciate as a photographer is other people who are genuinely trying to help people in general, whoever they are, enjoy photography and learn what it is they want to learn about photography so that they can take the kind of photos they want to take. That's the thing that I appreciate, because that's the thing that I try to do, and that's a thing that has helped me in the past when I've wanted to do different things. As an example, there are a couple of photographers out there, David Hobby and Neil Van Nykirk, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head that I've watched in the past, who really helped me grasp and understand the things that I didn't understand about flash photography when I was trying to learn how to use flash, because like we all do, right? We get gear acquisition syndrome. We want to buy a thing. In my case, it was a flash, and then we get that thing, and we realize we have no fucking clue what we're doing with that thing. Right. And that's what happened to me. Like, I bought this flash, put it on my camera. I was so excited, and I'm like, I'm gonna take some pictures with this. Realized I had zero fucking clue, and I put it away for 6 months because I was scared of the thing. right? So these people help me not be scared of that piece of equipment that I bought so that I could start using it and learning and creating with it. So that's what I appreciate in other people creating on YouTube. It's that they're helping to enable other people to create. And that happens in a lot of different ways, which is why as much as I'll criticize the things that I don't care for myself, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum because it might be helping somebody else. And if it is, that's great.
Absolutely. And I actually had almost an identical answer, kind of similar to your parallel to your Flash story. I've been kind of really diving into film photography a little bit.
Okay.
And the nice part is when someone has like a Nikon L35 little point and shoot camera, they can't shoot cinematic B-roll with it. So that's not a selling point.
Right.
If you can shoot 24 frames. So that's about a second of YouTube video. So you're not going to get very far on it.
Yeah, no doubt.
But these creators, and then they also can't sell me their LUTs when they're done with the video because they're shooting film. But again, I digress. But that's been really helpful for me, at least. Like I said, similar to your Flash predicament, trying to get back into A, just shooting film, and then B, developing it myself. I just bought one of those little Patterson tanks so I can just develop it in my bathroom with the lights on and everything. And
nice.
It's awesome. So I think this year shot about 22 rolls of film so far. And normally I'd shoot maybe a roll a year. I'd go drop it off at the local drugstore, CVS, Walgreens, or local camera shop, have them develop it. And I've just been deathly afraid of doing it myself and screwing up this roll of film that I just shot over the course of 3 weeks. Sure. And, by the time you develop it, I don't remember what I even shot anymore. So I guess I wouldn't be too sad if I lost it all. But still, where YouTube has really come in handy, and the YouTube film photography community, because that is almost like a little niche or a subsect of the larger kind of YouTube, I guess we'll call it a photography community, has really come in handy, really helped me out. And I've been kind of trying to give back where I can of kind of my experiences. I want to make a video. Actually, I already recorded it, my first time developing film, and I luckily did everything right. The pictures turned out great. But again, all thanks to these photographers giving back from someone that taught them, and they put in the time to, learn it, try it, do it themselves, learn from their errors, mistakes, and give me the best advice that they could, without asking anything of me. I didn't have to buy their LUTs or presets or anything. So, it's been, the film photography journey has been a fun one. I really appreciate it. And like I said multiple times, YouTube has really come in handy with that one and saved my butt quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, film is fabulous. Now, I haven't shot film in well over a decade. I still have several film cameras that I could shoot with. I just haven't shot them, especially now because there's really, nowhere locally. I live in a small city of like 18,000 people. There is no local camera shop. I don't think the CVS or whatever the heck we have in town here even would develop the film. So I'd have to send it off to a lab, which, I could do, but I didn't even realize were these, what did you call it, a Patterson tank?
Yes, it is I think it's about like 1 liter. And you just buy a C41 kit. I bought mine from Cinestill. Comes in the little, 8-ounce bottles. You mix that with about 1 liter of water, keep it in a jug, and then you pour your developer. Well, I do it all in the closet because I don't have one of those film changing bags.
Oh, sure.
Because I've been kind of slowly investing into film. I've been trying to avoid, dumping $500 into a film camera, a ton of film, everything that I actually need, a scanner, all that good stuff. And kind of just, like you said earlier, seeing if I like it first, kind of like with the iPhone photography. See if I like it, and then I will dump the money into it that, if I get really serious into this hobby. So I've been, I rip the rolls of film out in the closet. You wind it up on this little spool. You stick it in the tank, and then you lock the top on. And it is made in a way that it's light tight. So I pour my chemicals in the top, put the lid on, shake it up, dump my chemicals, my developer back, pour my Blix in, shake it, do whatever. But it's really neat. So it's built in a way that the water goes through the top and down and up and around. So it's light tight, but not watertight.
Nice.
So
that's pretty cool. I might have to get one of those.
It's awesome. So I can do 2 rolls of 35 millimeter at a time. And I think 1 roll of 120 and 35 at a time. Okay. But the spools extend. So it's the same spool that I use for 35 can kind of unlock and twist and lock and do 120 as well.
Okay. So it's multi-purpose.
Exactly. And I'm just kind of starting to get into 120 a little bit. I have some kind of on a shelf back there, some Kodak brownies that I think would be a lot of fun, kind of like our potato camera. That's kind of what they are. They're the potato camera.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's about the simplest form of a camera, literally just a box with a very basic shutter and a lens with the film in there.
Exactly.
Fixed aperture.
And you'd think the simpler they are, you really can't go wrong, but all the things that can go wrong, like I don't know how large my aperture is. I really don't know how long my shutter's open. The only thing I know for sure is the speed of my film is the Portra 400 that I put into it. Otherwise, I'm guessing, this could be f8 or it could be f16. Who knows? Well, big difference. This shutter could be a 50th of a second or a 125th. A fairly large difference with all those variables, right? There was 4 stops of variables right there. So.
And it's one of the things that I find interesting about the state of photography now, and I'm not a good old days sort of person by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's amazing all the advancements that we have. At the same time, I kind of feel like they're just trying to cram more shit into cameras, and different people have different needs. So I get, fulfilling those needs perfectly. That's great. Because I think about my needs as a photographer. And this is also part of the reason that I'm not great for doing reviews of cameras. I do principally studio work. But even when I shoot on location, I'm using my own lights, and I'm very much creating the photos that I create. I shoot conceptual portraits for folks who aren't familiar with my work. And so I'm very much creating the photo that I'm creating with the lights. And the camera is basically just a dumb box to capture it, right? So all I really care about in my camera is that A, it has a flash hot shoe so that I can trigger my lights. B, it shoots in manual mode so that I can set my settings the way I want it to. And that's basically it. And that it'll focus. I can manually focus if I need to, but autofocus is great. So I want to use autofocus, right? That's all I care about. HDR this, 4,000 frames per minute, sports action tracking, yada, yada, that. I could give a shit because I don't need any of that. For somebody else, that stuff's super relevant. But for me, I just don't care.
Right. That makes total sense. Everything has, the bells and the whistles and the vents and the hood scoops and the big rims and everything you need on a camera these days. It does everything except pay the rent for you sometimes.
Right. And this is the thing that's mind-blowing to me in a good way, right? We have cameras now that have ISOs of, 1 million, 24,000, 22 million, 48,000. That to me, that's mind-blowingly fabulous. Back in film, you were working with, 100 to 3,200 ISO film. That was your whole range. That was it. That was all you had. And now, the people who are complaining about noise or complaining about this or complaining about that, this is a personal pet peeve of mine. It's chill the fuck out. The tools we have now to create images are incredible. And nobody cares about the noise in your photo except for you and that other pixel peeping photographer who's sitting on and is like, somebody took a photo with noise on the internet. I got to talk about how they shouldn't have shot over ISO 100, right? Like, nobody fucking cares who's actually looking at your photos and thinking, oh my God, that's a gorgeous photo, right? So everybody out there, like, this is my PSA to the photography community, whatever we want to call it. All the people out there who are sitting at their computers thinking, you know, oh my God, my camera only goes up to ISO 6400 and that's unusable. Like, just chill the fuck out and take the photos. Just chill the fuck out and take the photos, because that's what's important.
100% agree again. Little side tangent here. We have these cameras that shoot, you know, 1,000,000 ISO, 8,000th of a shutter, 15 frames per second.
Silent shutters.
Yes, 36 megapixels, whatever. Why do we still get blurry photos of Bigfoot? As you were going on, that was kind of all that was churning in my head. Back in the 50s, we got blurry photos of the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. And I was like, okay, I will give you your excuse. You were shooting on your Kodak Brownie 620. All right, I get it.
We should be able to count Bigfoot's nose hairs, for God's sake, right?
It is 2020. Why are Bigfoot's eyelashes out of focus? Come on, Sony. You have eye focus recognition. What the hell? What the hell?
with 5 bajillion megapixel sensors, like, you should be able to zoom in and count the nose hairs, and, you know, oh my, yeah, you're so right about that. That's hilarious. That is so funny.
I'm calling BS right now.
Yep, 100%. I'm with you on that. I am so with you on that. That's hilarious. So I wanted to ask you something real quick, if I could. Back to what you said earlier when we were talking about our phones. It sounds like you don't really shoot much with your phone. Is that true?
Very, very rarely. So I think about 2 years ago, I actually downloaded Adobe Lightroom Mobile. And I played with it. I had a lot of fun with it. It was fun, you know, seeing how much detail is actually in a phone photo. And here I am, you know, kind of crap talking people that complain about, you know, grainy photos and stuff like that. And I think, you know, it's not how grainy the photo is. My iPhone 6 isn't great, but it's still better than any film camera I have on my shelf right now. Better than anything I started with, better than anything I had in my hand. You know, my 4 megapixel, I don't know, Motorola camera that I had, you know, back in 2000. But I guess I would summarize it as phone photography just kind of isn't a medium that clicks with me. I'll never go on a photo walk and say, hey, I'm just going to take my phone with me. I feel like I would be woefully unprepared. But I personally, I do not shoot on my phone. Every now and then, you know, I never, you know, intentionally, I guess I should say, go out with my phone in my hand and say, you know, I'm going to go on a photo walk, or I'm going to intentionally do photography, and I'm doing air quotes right now for those listening, do photography with my iPhone. And I didn't really ever think about that until probably a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, when I was doing the podcast with Lou. We were kind of talking about, you know, shoot with what you have, do what you can with what you have. If all you have is a cell phone in your pocket, that is the best camera right now, because it's the camera that you have with you, which is, you know, the photographer's mantra that everybody repeats, but nobody really listens to.
Yeah. So true. So true.
It's the best camera that you have with you, but you should have had that Sony A7, you know, 3, whatever. And that's what you should be spending your money on. But anyways, that is a very interesting question. And I really don't, you know, since I do have a mirrorless camera, I have my GH5 and I have a Nikon Z6. They're so small without the lens on it. This little thing, I can almost fit this little sucker in my pocket. And then if I want to take a nifty 50, I put it in my other pocket. So for me, size really isn't a factor, and I don't see again, just for me personally, not, digging at anybody that shoots, solely on their phone. I don't enjoy it. I don't get that same sense of I'm doing photography when I'm shooting on my phone. I do it more as like, here's a little snapshot, of me and my friends hanging out. Here's a snapshot of, that cool jet ski and Peter McKinnon shooting B-roll over there. And I couldn't grab my phone my camera fast enough. But I really treat the phone like a snapshot device and less of a photograph making device, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the exact same place. And it's not like, just like you said, it's not because it's capable. I have a 7 Plus, iPhone 7 Plus. So, one generation after yours. Camera's great. But for me, so when I started in photography, I was very much the take your camera everywhere, shoot everything person. And it was A, because I was excited about photography, B, because I was hungry to learn about photography, and the best way to learn is to shoot, So my camera was always with me as I was shooting. And this is, pre-smartphone cameras. This is like the year 2000, By the time I got, smartphones that were capable of taking photos, for me, my sort of modality and how I think about photography had changed. And so when I'm going to shoot, like, just like you said, when I'm going to shoot, which means I'm going to have my gear.
Right.
And if I'm out and I need to take a shot and all I have is my phone, 100% I'm going to use it and I'm going to get the photo. Mostly what I do is take pictures of my cats with my phone and send them to my wife. Or I take a picture of something for reference. It's and for me, it's not about the capability of the phone itself, because I recognize that it is wonderfully capable. Rather, it's my personal mindset of, what, just like you said, when I'm going to do photography, using the air quotes, then I'm going to have my gear.
Right.
And I'm going to do photography.
I'm going to do photography, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, this is like completely off the map. You can delete this if you want another show. But in Europe, I think in England or whatever, they say, I'm going to go do a shit. That's how they talk about going to take a dump.
Yeah.
Because here in the United States, we say I'm going to go take a shit or I'm going to go take a dump. But in Britain, we're going to go do a shit, which makes sense because you're going to go do that thing.
Where are you taking that? Whose shit is it that you're taking?
Exactly.
Who else's shit are you taking?
Yeah. Are you taking somebody's shit with you?
Can I be more productive? Can I hire someone to take shits for me?
Oh, now that's something right there.
That's a winning idea. This is, we're just working our way up. We started with potato camera, and now we have
people shitting for us.
Shit takers.
Ooh, we didn't have a vision going here when we started, did we?
I'm not sure if we went uphill or downhill. I guess it's all subjective.
It's all subjective, yeah. Anyway.
Oh man. But yeah, that I kind of like what you were going with there. You're talking about if I'm going to do photography, I'm going to do photography. And that for me, that's a varying level. Sometimes that's I'm going to do photography, so I'm going to grab, a D4 and 2 external flashes and a remote and a tripod and some gels and all this stuff. Or I'm going to do a slightly lower level photography, and it's just going to be me and, my Polaroid camera going for a walk. So there's different levels, and I guess I still personally never throw the iPhone in that photography spectrum for me personally. And once again, I'm not discounting anyone that does. It's just, it's more of taking a photo and less making a photo.
Yeah. And it's not that you can't, just like you said, it's not that you can't make a photo with a phone. You can. But it is very much the mindset. In fact, I'm kind of excited about the ability to start using Flash with phones And that's slowly becoming a thing.
Right.
It's not great. Like, it's actually pretty terrible right now, but all of these things start terribly. In fact, like I have a small piece of equipment from Godox. It's called the A1. It's just like a little square, almost, little square thing. And with their app, it'll sync so that you can trigger their lights with your smartphone. But the sync speed is 1/30th of a second, which is like terrible.
Right.
But it's a place to start.
Absolutely.
So I want to, and I haven't done it yet, but periodically I think, I want to do a shoot like in the studio using my lights. I want to do photography with my phone just to see what that's like, to try to create the kind of work that I generally create using my phone as the camera rather than using, my principal camera as the camera.
Yeah, I would definitely watch that video.
Yeah. I should do it as a live. I'd like to do photo shoot live streams because I like people to see the process of creation, since it's so much more than like, oh, I'm going to set my aperture to, f 2.8 and my shutter speed to 1/250th, and this is my ISO setting. Particularly for conceptual portraits, it's so much more. It's set dressing, it's hair, it's makeup, it's wardrobe, it's lighting, and what that lighting is doing. So it's poses, all of that kind of stuff. So I like to do live streams and let people see that process. But it would be difficult to live stream that because I'd have to turn off all of the lights in the studio so that I could, black out the ambient, since I'm working with 1/30th of a second as my sync speed. You know what I mean? And if I do that, then nobody's going to see anything on that live stream. So I got to figure out like, how would I actually make that as a video in a way that people could watch it, but I could still create the thing that I want to try to create.
That is interesting. And you kind of brought up a point where I kind of want to make another segue back to YouTube.
Sure.
You're talking about some of the camera settings and stuff. How often do you get people that are like, that was a cool photo, what are the camera settings that made this, photo happen? Not you as the photographer that put in the time and the effort to, frame, compose, tweak all of those settings to, using your artistic license and your photography knowledge, all of these years of knowledge coming down into, that split second of the decisive moment to take the photo.
Right.
I find myself, I get a lot of questions of, that's cool, the 10 years that you spent learning photography, just give me your settings and I'll recreate the same photo.
I used to get that question a lot more from people, and I think over time it's diminished, and I'd like to think that it's partly because of the videos that I've created on YouTube, and part of the thing that I've tried to convey in those videos is exactly what you were just saying, is that it's not the settings that make this photo. It's me choosing those settings for a particular reason to make this photo look this way. And the thought process behind that, the reason, you choose ISO 100 because it's a sunny day, so you can just go with your base ISO, and it's a field of poppies and you want great depth of field, so you go f/16, whatever those choices are. It's you thinking about what it is you're trying to convey in the image. And that's something that I've tried to impart over the years in my videos. And maybe that's helped diminish people wanting to ask me that question, because they see in the videos that it's more than just these 3 settings make this photo look this way. I don't know if that's true, but I'd like to think it's true because it makes me feel good.
Makes you feel like those videos are doing some work for you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That is interesting. And I've always thought about going back to kind of the basics. Like I started, my channel a long time ago, and I started with, the basic videos like what is ISO, what is aperture, what is, what are your metering modes or your focus modes, anything like that. And I've always kind of wanted to go back, revisit those, but there are just so many people on YouTube. There's probably a million, what is aperture? What is exposure? Am I going to do it any better? Or am I just kind of, tossing my pennies in the wishing well with the thousands of other dollars that are out there. Am I adding anything?
Here's what I'd say to that. I would say do it. If you want to do it, because it's less about the fact that there's already a million other videos and photographers who've done these. I've done those videos, right? And I've revisited those videos. And it's more about there are millions of people out there who want to learn photography, new people every single day. Mm-hmm. And you might be the person that they understand. I've had so many people message me who say, I watched so many videos on YouTube, and it wasn't until I got to your videos that I understood aperture, whatever it was. And that'll happen for you as well, because you'll explain it in the way that makes sense for whatever subset of people think in the same way that you think. So I say do it. I say do it because it's still worth doing. And even if it's one person that you help understand it, then you've done a good thing in the world.
Right. I totally agree with that. And that was kind of my mindset of why I was even thinking about it in the first place. Like, I have had those comments, and I think I am grateful for the people that are grateful for my videos, and the people that come and they actually, get some tiny bit of useful information, in between my couple, B-roll shots that are cinematic. But they get that little bit of information, and I feel like those hours I spent shooting and editing and coming up with video ideas, it was all worth it if one person either was slightly moderately entertained by the fact that, me standing in front of a camera, or, they learned something and they are now better off because of, I made a positive contribution. That's kind of the whole reason I started my YouTube channel, was to give back in a different way, because when I was taught photography, it was one-on-one from a teacher I had in high school who was, a tattoo artist, and he just did photography on the side, and he learned it in order to take, better documentation of his tattoos. So that's how I learned. And, that one-on-one is awesome, but if I could help one person, that's great. If I can help, 1,000 people, or whatever the limitation of YouTube is, that's even better. And then just kind of, you leave those videos sitting, floating out there, and they are out there as long as YouTube exists, to help whoever can, just happens to kind of run across your videos. So I thought that was a really good point. As long as you're helping, one person, at least for me, it's all worth it when you get that comment that was, like you said, thank you. I watched 15 other videos, made 0 sense, and then, ding, the light bulb turned on when I watched your video.
Yeah. And it does. It makes all the difference. And I think in the pursuit of social validation, more subscribers on YouTube, more followers on Instagram, more whatever on whatever platform it happens to be, the idea of helping even just one person gets lost, because we're chasing numbers. And in the end, like we talked about earlier, those numbers are pretty meaningless. I'm at 96,000-ish, whatever it is, subscribers on my YouTube channel. That's both amazing and completely meaningless. What is far more meaningful to me was the email that I got the other day from a person who told me that I inspired them to start experimenting with and learning flash photography. That to me was an incredible and meaningful thing. That's and that awesome. Came from the videos that I made on YouTube, right? So that's great. That's amazing. That's what's so beautiful about this.
So again, back to the being a YouTube photographer, this is a bit of a challenge that, how do you find the balance of being a photographer and being a YouTuber? So I'll kind of throw out an example of, the direction I'm trying to go with this question. There are times where I will go out and I will do, a photo walk or a photo hike or a photo shoot of something, just because I know I need to make content, by Sunday morning, whatever. Mm-hmm. And maybe that is the only, in air quotes again, photography. I'm going to do photography, damn it.
Right.
Maybe that's the only photography or dose of photography I get, for a month is these little photo shoots for YouTube. And I start finding, or I have start to found I've lost a little bit of motivation. It's like, well, if I'm not doing this for me anymore. I'm doing this for YouTube, which again, it's still, I love helping people and it's great to help people, but I still need some of that personal satisfaction, from my photo shoot. And I found a lot of times, I'm, setting up a still life scene and lighting it for a tutorial, not necessarily for me. How do you find that balance, I guess, is my question.
So this is something that evolved over time. I'll start by saying that. And for me, it kind of goes back to before I even started doing YouTube stuff. When I was excited about and learning photography and starting to get into thinking about, I could make money doing this thing. I was hungry to do anything that was photography related that would make me money. And I spent a couple of years working for a guy who went into daycare centers and schools and took portraits of the kids. Have you ever heard of Life Touch?
Absolutely. They've taken my photo.
Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't Life Touch, but it was a Life Touch competitor. So same basic model, right? Go in, take relatively cookie cutter photos of kids, sell prints to the parents, right?
Right.
And I was like, photography, job, money, I'm in. And then I did it for a couple of years and it was like, oh, this fucking sucks, dude. Because it was zero photography fulfillment. And so I ended up leaving that job and realizing that for me, my creating photography had to be separate from whatever it is that I might do that makes money that is also related to photography. They had to be separate things. And so I realized that I didn't ever want to really have a studio business. Now that's portrait photography, like that's a studio business is its own separate thing. To kind of get at your question, I let what I do to create for fulfillment bleed into my YouTube stuff, but my YouTube has always kind of been separate from the kind of stuff that I like to create, because this is actually a little bit hard for me to vocalize, to be perfectly honest, because I've kind of wanted to bring these things together a little bit. In part because I've spent the last 10 years on my YouTube channel principally trying to help people understand the fundamentals of photography and how to use those things to create the images they want to create, and to help people think about photography like experienced photographers do.
Right.
And a lot of it has been things like, like you say, aperture, ISO, whatever, shutter speed, metering modes, all of these different kinds of things in these videos that just talk about like, this is the thing, this is what it does, this is how you use it, this is how you think about it. The point that I'm at now, personally, as a photographer is, like I said earlier, when I think about my camera, it's just a dumb box that's there to capture the image. Like my settings on my camera almost never change. It's like base ISO, aperture of f7.1 because I like, like middle-ish depth of field in my images, and 2/50th of a second because that's my camera's sync speed. Right. And then I'm creating everything with the set and the models and the lights,
right.
And it's such a different process. And I've wanted to bring that process to YouTube, but what I've found is that my audience is very much the how the fuck do I use my camera and what the hell is aperture and what the fuck does f7.1 even mean? You know what I mean? So trying to bridge that gap has actually been kind of difficult for me, which is part of the reason that I was like, I need to take a break. All of this is a rambly ass way for me to say that I've always maintained my creative outlet as photography fairly separate from what I do on YouTube. I create for myself. I let that bleed over into what I do on YouTube, but whether or not I'm making any kind of video about anything, like my shoots that I have lined up for creating the things that I want to create are happening regardless of what is happening on YouTube. And that's always going to be kind of what it is. Like, I mean, we're in the quarantine right now, so ain't shit going on for photo shoots.
Right.
So I'm actually planning a self-portrait that I want to shoot. I'm going to live stream it because I think people will be interested in see it. But if YouTube didn't exist, I'd still do this thing. I plan on painting my face. I'm going to actually like body paint myself.
That's awesome.
And then take a self-portrait, which is going to be like wild and weird because I've never painted myself and I'm not a body painter by any stretch of the imagination. But for me, it's about letting my creativity loose, and that has to be mostly separate from what's going on YouTube. I'll let it overlap, but it just has to be its own separate thing. And that's probably not a great explanation. But that's how it works for me in my brain. Like, they have to be separate. And the Venn diagram kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they can overlap, but this whole thing has to be its own thing.
Right. I totally understand that. That is, like I said before, something I struggle a little bit. Like, how much time do I spend making a video that is my passion or what I want to make versus, what my audience wants to see this week? Because maybe the video that I want to make is going to get 3 views, and the video, a low pro backpack review is going to get 40,000 views, but that's what my audience wants, or that's what, the people that are going to consume my content want. So another question I'd have for you is, if you had to wipe the slate clean, 0 subscribers, 0 videos, and starting today, and you had to do everything over, would you still, and knowing everything would you still start a YouTube channel today?
It's funny you ask me this because, like, I've seriously contemplated starting a brand new YouTube channel from 0.
Okay.
I haven't done that. And so in a way that is an answer to the question. And I guess that would be no. But at the same time, so here's what I've been thinking about. I edit all of my photos on my iPad Pro entirely.
Okay.
And I'm not just talking like raw photos in Lightroom. I'm talking Affinity Photo, doing in-depth composite work. With conceptual portraits, there can be some heavy composite sorts of things and lots of photo manipulation stuff. And there's a part of me that wants to just make videos about that.
Okay.
And I've thrown some of that into my YouTube mix already. Like, if you look, if a person looks at my channel, they'll see stuff about editing on the iPad mixed in with all of my other things. And I thought, maybe I should start a brand new channel and like super niche in to just editing on the iPad, and that's all this channel makes videos about, right? No, I haven't done it because I've spent the last 10 years making videos for YouTube, and I'm kind of burnt out, like, for real.
Right.
But I'm also starting to get back into making videos again. I stopped making videos around October of last year on my, every week is a new video sort of schedule. And I did a few videos through the latter part of last year, and I've done a few videos this year. But for the most part, I've just been chilling out. And I keep thinking about that channel, and I keep thinking about maybe doing that. So I think in the end, the answer is yes, I would. but at the same time, no, I wouldn't. Because I know how much fucking work it is, man.
Oh man. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. And for anybody listening, like, just to give you an idea, and I'd like to hear your side of this as well. So on average, I would spend just in production about an hour per minute of video. And this fluctuates because certain things you can bang out fast and other things are more intensive. But on average, video production is about an hour per minute of finished video. And that's just the production. So 5-minute video, that's 5 hours. Maybe I spend 3 hours writing a script, an hour recording, and an hour editing, right? Something like that, whatever it is. And then people think, oh, okay, I've made this video. I'll just put it on YouTube and I'm done. No. Fuck no. No. Because YouTube is almost sentient with this fucking algorithm stuff, right?
Yes.
Which means you have to think about, what is your title going to be? What is your description going to be? What are your tags going to be? What is your thumbnail going to look like? I'm going to spend 4 hours making a fucking thumbnail, right?
Right.
You know, to try to get people to click that damn thing. And then how many people are going to watch it? 100 people. Oh, I made 3 cents on this video, right? So if I'm going to do this full time, how am I going to make money? Oh, I need to have a mailing list or whatever it is your particular channel is to actually make money. Like, no joke, YouTube is, I was spending countless hours per week on YouTube, basically nonstop. If I wasn't working on it, I was always thinking about it. It was either thinking about the next video or thinking about how to try to make more money doing this thing or thinking about whatever all of this stuff was. And I say all of this stuff not to discourage anybody who might be listening that wants to try to do YouTube, but so that you know what you might be getting yourself into. Because if you're prepared, you can at least be prepared and think about it and go in with a better strategy than mine was when I started, which was, I'm just going to make a video every week, you know, which again did okay. I'm almost at 100,000 subscribers, but I could have done a lot better had I known what I know now back then, which is the story of everybody's life.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of reminded me, I have my little list here that I kind of keep track of during the week of, you know, here my running list on my sticky pad, and then I get through them and I, you know, rip this off, go on to the next sticky pad of my upcoming videos. But exactly like you said, when I first started, I was like, all right, so I have a free hour on Friday. I'm going to knock out a YouTube video. No, I'm not going to. Just because the video is 5 minutes doesn't mean I spent 5 minutes recording, 20 minutes editing, a couple minutes rendering, and, you know, another 5 minutes uploading. It was, when you asked me to kind of elaborate on this as well, I spend pretty much the time that you set the estimate, about an hour per minute, give or take a little bit. And then I also have an aging MacBook. So there's, let's say I do a 10-minute video, give or take in Premiere, that's going to be about an hour to render.
Let's back up for half a second.
Okay.
Dude, Final Cut Pro, man. Final Cut Pro.
Oh, so I left Final Cut.
Render time. Oh, no, you were a Final Cut user?
I was. So back in college, I did use Final Cut, and this was my first go-around with college. So community college, my associate's degree, back when I was still doing the animation stuff. Super heavy into After Effects, super heavy into... I actually got into Final Cut because of how much I hated Adobe Premiere Pro. It was horrible at the time. It was just laggy. It didn't work. It would crash all the time. I don't remember what version. This was, I think, right before Creative Suite, back when they still had their own individual numbers.
Right, 5, whatever.
Exactly, because there was like 5, 6, 7, 8, Creative Suite, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, up through 9, then Creative Cloud, then they go by the year. Can't keep track anymore. But to give a time frame, this was when I was using After Effects 5.0 and 4.5. So this was back 2000, 5 through 2010. I was playing around in Premiere, hated it. moved on to Final Cut. I think it was Final Cut 7.
Right.
Don't quote me on that. And then when Final Cut, I think it was Final
10.
Cut X came out and it looked like iMovie, I was like, I'm done.
No, but I got to tell you, man, revisit it seriously. So you're and it might not work for you because you're in Premiere and coming back to like Final Cut X 10, whatever the fuck they call it. It might break your brain in the same way that periodically I'm like, oh, I should check out Premiere. It breaks my fucking brain. Like, there are things about it that I just do not understand why it is the way it is, because in Final Cut, it is so much easier to do the things that I want to try to do. Anyway, the far and away, the hugest advantage is Final Cut on your MacBook will render so much fucking faster than Premiere does. Like, so much faster. I don't know if they still offer a trial, but just download a trial and throw some footage in there and throw the same footage into Premiere and just run an export and see what the difference is. And what MacBook are you running?
Oh boy, this is a 2015 MacBook Pro. It's not the Air.
Is it a 15-inch?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm rocking the same one, man. Rocking the same MacBook. I love it.
And
it's great, right?
It's fantastic.
It's old, but it's still a trooper, isn't it?
It is chugging right through everything I need it to. The one problem is within the last month, I've had it unexpectedly just shut off for no good reason. So
is your battery starting to fry?
I believe so. I'm kind of getting to the point where I have to work with, the charger plugged in most of the time. And I know that even once you get to that level of, life support for your MacBook, you're stuck being on the charger. The battery's fried. And I'm kind of wondering, like, it's not really worth replacing the battery. I don't even know if that's an option anymore for this 2015.
It actually is. And it's only like $100. It's totally worth doing. Oh,
okay.
God, yeah. It might be like 150, but even at 150, so worth the money.
Right. What I'm thinking is, why not go all out and spend a little bit of money and get an actual, iMac. I'm using my MacBook right now essentially like a desktop. And I think one of these days I'm just going to fry it the way I'm using it. Just rendering constantly high performance programs like After Effects, and I do some animation stuff and like Maya, some 3D stuff. I'm going to melt this sucker. I've been through...
I know how you feel.
I've been through 3 motherboards on... I used to have an HP laptop trying to do all this stuff. Didn't work out. I went through 1 or 2 in a gaming PC that I built specifically with gaming specs so I could game and do After Effects and animation. Still melted my motherboards until I got... I built my own liquid-cooled system. But again, I'm getting off topic. It might be, time for me to keep this guy as my nice little traveling laptop, maybe update the battery, and then actually kind of bite the bullet and go for the big old iMac, one of the larger screens, kind of see what I'm doing, because Luke called me out. Yeah, Luke called me out on one of my videos. He's like, you heathen, you don't, have a source monitor open up in Premiere. It's like, I'm working with 15 inches here. It's all about real estate and being as economical as possible. I have one monitor. I've been using and abusing this MacBook, and it's just been, it's been a trooper. So I'm scared to upgrade because I'm going to hold my next piece of equipment to at least the same standard or a higher standard. And this guy set the bar pretty darn high because it's still chugging. It's still keeping up with my new, I have a 2019 MacBook that I got from work with the touch bar and all the fanciness.
Oh, sure.
This guy renders just as fast, the 2016.
Yep.
So I'm looking at, I'm not going to buy a new MacBook personally. So I'm thinking, maybe the iMac's the way to go. That was a nice, 5-minute long, side tangent of coming back to the point that I think, maybe going to a standalone iMac computer and, going all out with a editing station.
I'll tell you what, like, you'll love the 27 inches. That's a no-brainer, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let me tell you what happened to me, and again, I just encourage you to try Final Cut. You know, if Premiere works for you, like, you know, again, I'm not yucking anybody's yum, but this was to me mind blowing. I was rocking that 2015, still have the 2015 MacBook, and I was doing the exact same thing that you're doing. Like, that was my machine. I was doing all my video production on it. And it was working, but, you know, render times, even with Final Cut, were like, you know, okay, I'm going to shoot this video to render. I'm going to go to bed. It'll be done in the morning. So I finally decided with, you know, my wife's blessing to do exactly what you're talking about. Bite the bullet, buy an iMac, 27-inch, 5K, you know, decently spec'd. I didn't even buy it with all the RAM. I was like, I'll just upgrade the RAM myself because it's easy enough and way cheaper. And did that. And then I made my first video. And I shit you not, like, a video that took like 3 hours to render on the 2015 MacBook took 3 minutes on the iMac. Damn. I was like, is this a mistake? Is there something wrong? And then I looked at the video and I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. Wow. And it's just no iMac Pro, no, you know, nothing, just an iMac with a good processor, decently spec'd. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And like Final Cut, obviously, because it's made by Apple, it can absolutely optimize the hardware, and you'll see incredible render times. So that's why I'm encouraging you to check it out. But a lot of people love Premiere because of its capability, and I totally get that. So just throwing that out there.
Okay, that's definitely something. I'm going to have to look up and see if, like you said, they have, what was I going to say? If they have a, you know, 30-day free trial, I think that would kind of fit what I'm looking for. Give me a little test window, render, you know, 3-4 episodes, see how it works, and kind of roll with it, see if it's worth investing in. So we kind of did a little bit of a side tangent again.
Yeah.
And I was going to bring us back a little bit, probably one of the last questions back to YouTube. We already, I think, went pretty in depth about if you would start a YouTube channel again. I'm not 100% sure. I think I would do it. There's days when I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'd do a YouTube channel again. And there's days when it's, oh, hell no, I would not do a YouTube channel again.
Right.
But moving past that and kind of piggybacking off that question, what advice would you give to someone that is starting a YouTube channel tomorrow?
There's kind of a lot to unpack. I think the first thing would be that if this is a thing that you want to be your job, then you need to have a monetization plan that exists beyond YouTube. You have to be able to make money independent of YouTube's ad revenue, because that's not something you can depend on. For me, that's selling video courses, educating people about photography. Could be selling merch, could be selling LUTs and presets. I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of LUTs and presets. LUTs are okay because with video like that gives you a certain thing. Presets, like Lightroom presets, go on a little tangent here. I'm telling you, man, that pisses me off. All of these photographers selling these monster packs of presets and promising that you're going to take a photo and click a button and boom, it's going to look fucking amazing. It's like,
but the preset was $1,000 yesterday, and it's only $39.99 today.
Right. Exactly. And it's just, what you need to do if you're gonna make this your job is think about how to make money outside of YouTube. That's number one. Number two is you have an audience on YouTube, and as much as you want to make what you want to make, you kind of have to make what they want to watch. Right. And it's one of those situations where once you reach a certain point, you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? Once you're Peter McKinnon, where Peter McKinnon is now, like, he can make whatever video he wants. In fact, let me just express a little bit of my YouTube frustration here. if you don't mind. Right. I mentioned earlier that, I've done some videos on editing on your iPad, and I spent a lot of time making these videos trying to help people understand like what you can actually do and how to do it on the iPad. Right. And these videos have done okay on my channel. Like some have done pretty well and some have died. Okay. And Peter McKinnon makes a fucking video that's literally like 9 minutes of him sitting there in perfect silence, just editing photos in Lightroom on the iPad. And he gets 40 bajillion fucking views. Okay. Now, again, Peter McKinnon has earned what he has. So,
right.
This is the part of me that's ranting right now is the part of my brain that is making the comparison to the other people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing. And that's frustrating because I put a shit ton of work into those videos. But my audience didn't want to watch those. And I'm not at a point where I can just make whatever I want. So what YouTube is very much is satisfying YouTube, which is what you said earlier, people spending time on YouTube. And that's not only them watching your videos, it's them, after they watch your videos, continuing to watch videos on YouTube. Maybe it's another one of your videos, maybe it's somebody else's video. And so working and making videos on YouTube is not about what you want to do as much as you want it to be, as much as I want it to be. It's about what YouTube wants and what the people who are on YouTube watching video want, because YouTube wants them to stay there so that they watch more ads, so that YouTube gets that sweet ad revenue. That's what it's all about. Yes. And if you don't think about that and you don't approach it with that mindset, you're going to end up frustrated. Now, all of that is about a person approaching YouTube as, I want this to be my job. Like, if you just want to fuck around on YouTube and make videos because you want to make them, like, sky's the limit here. Because who cares what YouTube wants and who cares what the audience wants? You just make your videos. But then you have to realize that probably nobody's going to watch them until somebody does, which seems... Right? It seems crazy, but it's what happened to me, which is like I made this rando video if somebody asked me a question and I answered it, and then 3 months later, apparently thousands of people had the exact same question, and so they found my video, right? So maybe, whatever it is that you want to make a video about, whoever's out there listening to this, maybe it's about photography, maybe it's about something else, The film photography YouTube, niche, right? That's its own thing. It has its own audience, and these people want to see certain stuff. So the people who make those videos have to think about that. Like, I'm kind of ranting a little bit now, so I'm going to reel myself back in. But I think the core is you have to realize that it's not about what you want to do. It's about satisfying what YouTube wants and what the audience wants if you want to make this a job.
Right. And so I'm on Reddit, and I follow a couple different Reddits or subreddits about YouTube specifically, just so that it's kind of a fair warning when I'm about to get smacked in the face with a new algorithm change. And there are people all the time on there. It's like, hey, can I do a YouTube channel with 14 different niches? Why do I have to have a niche? Can I go and do it? You can do whatever, that gets your jollies off on YouTube, but don't expect a subscriber. Don't expect more than 5. Your close friends and the 4 other accounts that you made. And
that's genius. Yep.
But don't expect people. YouTube doesn't owe you anything. Don't expect people to watch your videos, and that's one of the hardest things to overcome, at least for me personally. Was yes, I put 10 hours into this video, and I got 3.5 views. It gets discouraging at some point where you just got to go, is it worth, is the juice worth the squeeze of doing all this work that I did? And then finding, again, it all comes down to balance, I think. But that was something that I really struggled with, was, niche and balance. and making the videos, my passion videos versus what I know is going to bring in the views and, the meaningless number of subscribers essentially at this point. But yeah, I would definitely, I think, warn someone that wanted to start a channel, if you're trying to make money, if you're trying to make business or make a business out of it, you have to treat it like a business. You have to treat it like a 9 to 5. You wake up in the morning at 9 o'clock and you start researching, what's going to be my next video? What are going to be the tags for my video before I even start my video? Because are people going to even look for the content that I'm producing? If they're not, don't make the video. Again, unless you're doing it just for fun. So that was one of the biggest hurdles for me, I think, was kind of finding, again, balance of what do I want to put out versus what are people going to watch that I put out. So it's a struggle. And then, like you alluded to earlier, I can make a video that has just the right hashtags, the correct, verbiage in my description that matches my title, and the title is 60 characters long, just in that perfect little window. And I used TubeBuddy for searching my keywords, and I used everything, and I did everything right, and I tweaked that thumbnail for 6 hours as the video was uploading, and someone releases a video that's called Coffee B-roll, and they spell B-roll wrong, and they get 16 million views. So
exactly.
You are a slave to the algorithm, and it may change, next Thursday, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think what we're both saying here, again, is not to discourage anybody from doing this thing, but if you understand what you're getting yourself into, then you're going to be better prepared to be successful at it.
Right, absolutely. So I think, as long as someone is going into it with the right mindset of, I wouldn't even encourage someone that says, I want to go on YouTube to make a business, or I want to go on YouTube to be famous. There are a bajillion other ways to go do that. You can probably, jump off the Empire State Building with a parachute, and you're going to be a lot more famous.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a lot less effort.
Make a TikTok video of yourself looking at a toilet. You're famous.
Exactly. There you go. Feel another side rant coming on. I haven't invested in TikTok. I know another couple of YouTubers that are, all about it. Like, hey, I can share little snippets of my video, just like it's Vine or something like that. And I was like, why am I can't get into, I'm having a hard time keeping up with all these platforms, Snapchat, TikTok.
Yep.
I mean, it took me a while just to get on Twitter.
Oh God. I'm telling you, man.
There's so many.
Yeah. I don't use TikTok. I don't use Snapchat. And this isn't like, relative to, I'm 44, I think. What the hell year is it? Yeah, I'm going to be 45 this year. I'm 44 years old, right? So I'm technically an old in internet parlance, right? So this isn't me being an old man like, oh, that TikTok is the bird, whatever, right? Like, I get TikTok, I get Snapchat, I get Twitter, I get Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Like, I get all these platforms. I just can't split my attention that many ways.
Right.
Yeah. And so for me, because my greatest success on a platform has been on YouTube, that's always where I've kept the principal attention that I've put into my efforts. And YouTube is so time consuming that I basically haven't had, any for anything else. I've put some effort into Instagram because as a photographer, that seems like the logical thing to do. But
right.
I personally am disinclined to put a ton of effort into Instagram because it's just another algorithm that you're trying to beat.
Right.
And it's Facebook, and we all saw what happened to Facebook pages.
Yeah.
And they're doing the same thing to Instagram. It's just, they're doing it very slowly. So I feel like I'm ahead of the game in saying, fuck, I'm not going to put any effort into Instagram.
Right. Yep. I am the same way. In my personal opinion, Instagram is dead. It's
Yeah.
again looking. I think we can take YouTube and we look at YouTube and where YouTube has come since it started, and look at Instagram the same way. Yeah, everything is great when you get started. Once you have to start, once we get paid posts, once we get it's the company's openly traded, now bought by Facebook, which is openly traded. You have to please a shareholder. You no longer have to please either a content producer or a content consumer. It's all about the money. It's not about the experience.
Yeah. And I'm so with you on that. And you can see the same thing on TikTok. I'm sorry. Now, TikTok's not a publicly traded company as I understand it. I mean, it might be trading on, China's exchange, whatever that happens to be. But, there's already been a number of revelations, exposés, whatever you want to call it, talking about how TikTok manipulates what it shows in its feed to, play up certain things and play down certain things that they want to promote. And, I'm in a place, and this is me personally, so I don't want to, I don't know how to say this. So I'm just going to say it, and it is what it is, right? Like, I'm in a place where I've gotten a quote unquote regular job because I was burnt out from doing YouTube, and I just wanted a job where I could give fuck all about the job, right? Like, I go to the job, I do my job, I do it well, and then I go home, and I don't give a shit.
Right.
I don't have to. Which means that I don't have to worry about pleasing anybody or anything. I'm not chasing an algorithm. I'm not looking at these numbers and trying to think about, what is the next viral thing I can try to do to capitalize on. And this is not a unique perspective by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like we're at this place in the world where social media, which encompasses all of these things, YouTube, Insta, yada, yada, yada. We're at a place in the world and in time where the balance is very unhealthy, I think, personally. And these platforms are consuming a ton of our time and a ton of our attention, and they're warping how we interact with each other, and they're manipulating how we interact with each other.
Right.
And they force us by design to chase the numbers and chase the affirmation of likes and views and whatever it happens to be. And we're so caught up in this right now that we forget that these things don't mean anything. Right?
Right.
I have whatever, my most popular video on my channel. I don't even know what it is right now. Let me just look at my analytics real fast. Oh, let's see what it is. Top videos in my last period, my top video got 4,741 views over the last month.
Okay.
Okay. That's great. I've got my best video on my channel. Here it is, has 1.3 million views, right? That's an impressive number.
Right.
Okay. 1.3 million views. That's an impressive number. It also don't mean shit. 800. I remember I put this photo on my Instagram a couple of months back, and I hadn't posted anything on Instagram for like 2 months because fuck Instagram, right? And I posted this photo, and it gets like 400 likes. Most I've ever gotten out of photo on Instagram. And there's the part of my brain that lives in the social media world that's like, oh shit, that's amazing. I have 400 likes. That's really good. I should post more photos to Instagram.
Right.
And then there's the other part of my brain that was like, who the fuck cares?
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like we're at an unhealthy place with this stuff. And I'm trying to find a way back to healthily engaging with this stuff again. And I'm hoping that we find, I don't know if it's going to happen, right? Because these companies are enormous.
Right.
But I hope we find a way back to a place where these numbers don't consume everybody's lives and minds. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I really like how you kind of brought it back to photography on Instagram.
Yeah.
What is a like worth? What is the value of there's no relation, there's no currency converter for a like. It doesn't, I don't have my phone in my hand, but I sit here and I scroll up and maybe I tap a like, maybe I double tap. It's a mindless motion. And thinking about when I'm doing it, there is zero thought. It is that, one of the creators
just do it.
Right. One of the designers of Instagram says one of his biggest regrets is the infinity scroll feature, where you just go and you thumb up, and you can sit there for hours where your brain just shuts off and you're scrolling and double tapping. And I'm counting, those 236 likes as 236 people love my photo. No, they were mindlessly sitting on the toilet with nothing better to do.
Yep.
Because they didn't have someone to take their shit for them. But gotta come full circle. But
yes.
Like you said, it's so mindless. And sometimes I have to go back and I relate it to, YouTube. What is a view? And I'm not talking about AdSense or revenue or anything like that. What is a view? And looking back, it's really cool that one of my higher performing videos is about to hit 100,000 views. But what does that mean? Somebody watched that video in the past, and that was it. They watched it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have to say for, that work that I put into it, unless, again, I'm giving back to the community. But I really like how this whole thing kind of came back with algorithms and stuff back to photography. And you said we're in this, as a society, this unhealthy, culture or mentality of judging ourselves based on these absolutely arbitrary and meaningless numbers, where I'm judging myself based on, the 1,000 people I have following me on Twitter, or the 1,000 followers I have on Instagram, or the 9,000 on YouTube, whatever it is, that are absolutely meaningless. And then you have photographers coming up that, well, I suck at photography because I only got two likes, or, I only got 30 likes. And this guy that took a picture of his...
That's the wrong mindset.
Exactly. This guy took a picture of his dog's foot and got 5,000 likes. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah. I have what I think, because they're my own work that I'm very proud of, beautiful photos that I've never shared to Instagram. I create the photos that I create for the sake of doing so. For me, again, in conceptual portraiture, it's typically working with another person. It's a collaboration, and there's a whole process that I find incredibly fulfilling and enjoying. And the end result is this photograph that I'm usually very proud of. And as long as I and the person I created that photo with are happy, which we usually are because we're looking at it and developing it as we go.
Oh, yeah.
I could give fuck all what Instagram thinks about it.
Right.
And I think that's what is missing in a lot of photographers now, because photography is so tied to social media, and the idea of photography is so tied to sharing and getting that validation, rather than creating for the sake of your own personal fulfillment.
Right.
And maybe that's a little bit of what you're lacking in what you were talking about in, sometimes all of the shooting you end up doing is for your videos. Maybe that's a little bit more of what you need in your own work, is just, even if it is for your videos, creating for the sake of your own personal fulfillment, outside of the scope of this whole social media world that we're living in.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And some of, the most fun I've had, even if it gets, 4 views, is the videos that I create with absolutely no intention of, anyone else in the world ever seeing. I'll make it, render it, put it in a shoebox. I'm happy.
Yep.
And, like we were saying, I put it on YouTube and I only get 5 likes, now I'm assigning more arbitrary value to my passion. And I kind of have to, step back a little bit and be like, nope, this video I made or this photo I made, this is for me to enjoy. This is for people. If I decide to print it out, hang it up in my living room, this is for, everyone I have a beer with to enjoy. And that's it. There's no, maybe I get 4 likes from the people that come through my living room, but there's no arbitrary numbers. At least that's like putting your art in a gallery and you get people that come through and look at it and pay attention, spend more than the, 10th of a second thumbing by it really quick on Instagram. Which I don't want to get into, like printing and physical copies. That's that's another podcast altogether.
That's a whole nother show.
And even Instagram, I can talk for hours on, my love-hate relationship with Instagram. So I really won't get into that one too much, but I think it's good to recognize how arbitrary and how meaningless these numbers are, that we've been talking about. And you have to be careful because society assigns you a number and it's all random. It's all luck of, who comes by your stuff and, may like it, may accidentally hit the like button, whatever. Kind of going on a long-winded rant, and I'm hoping I find this sentence before I get to the end of it. But I just think you brought up some great points there with, Instagram, and we have to be careful how we judge ourselves, just like not judging ourselves, compared to another YouTuber, another Instagrammer, or Twitterite.
Twitter, yeah. I don't know.
Tweeter?
Twatter?
A tweet?
Twatter. We'll call them twatters.
I'd like it. I'll leave that one alone. Oh, man. Can't say I wasn't thinking it. But yeah, that is, I think, a pretty good point to kind of tie up this podcast with is, kind of that message there. Anybody listening, just kind of stop, set the phone down, and evaluate a little bit of, it's, you can't stop a culture. You can't stop,
right.
7 billion people in the world from using Instagram, but, changing one person's mind at a time of, don't assign this meaningless value to you or your photography or your self-worth, based on an algorithm that, some guy in his mom's basement probably made up.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of a thing that I've said for years when I talk about other people's photos, because objectively, any one person can look at a photograph and think it's terrible, not good, whatever, be it selective photo, be it this, be it that, be it whatever. But what I always tell people is that in the end, if you are happy with that photo, that's all that matters. Nobody else's opinion matters because that's your photo, you created it, and that goes for anything else. Rather than seeking external validation, you should seek your own personal validation first. And external validation is great, but don't let that rule your world.
Absolutely. I think you kind of holistically summarized the entire podcast, and I think those are the words of wisdom before I go on any crazy, Twitter, Instagram rants. I think those are the words of wisdom that I kind of want to leave, the listeners of this podcast with. And I want to say huge thank you for you coming on this podcast, being a part of the second episode. Still awesome. Second episode. We haven't burned anything down yet, so we've gotten pretty close. But
yeah, well, I mean, thanks for having me. This has really been great, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and be a guest.
Yeah, and if you want to, like I said, we're going to link to your channel and everything in the description of the video and everything. But if you want to give yourself a quick plug of why should people come watch your channel?
I mean, it's pretty simple. If you want to learn about photography, that's what I do on my channel.
Awesome. Short, sweet, to the point.
That's how I try to make my videos.
I try. Well, I think what you're missing is that 20 minutes of cinematic B-roll. I'll throw that out there.
I don't drink coffee, so I'm not sure what to do.
Well, damn. I heard tea is a halfway decent substitute. But it's not quite the same. Not quite the same.
Right.
So I think that is a good point to wrap this up. We had an awesome 2-hour conversation. Didn't feel like 2 hours at all, but some awesome topics. And I really, again, want to thank you for coming on this brand new podcast and thank everyone for listening. So I'll see you guys next weekend.